Hi, I'm Angela Wolf. I'm a fashion designer and online instructor. And when I got started, I started doing custom clothing and alterations from my home. So if you're thinking about making a little money sewing, I want to give you some tips. It's really not that difficult and you don't have to spend that much money. To get started, you really need to get a business license. It's not very expensive, $10, $15 from your local agency. You'll need to set up a bank account. And once you grow, you can get an LLC, which is more expensive. But to get started, just get the basics. Two other really important things you need to do is if you're going to work from home, go check with your zoning commission to make sure that you're allowed to run a business out of your house. If they say no, you can always go and ask permission. Many times they'll allow that, and if they still say no, you could always pick up and deliver clothes for your clients. I had to do that for a little while. It's not that bad. The last thing you really need to start is insurance. You need to get an insurance either to cover clients coming into your house, or covering the product that you have in your house, or covering the product that's going in your car if you're delivering. So, 3 basic things to get started. And as far as tools, I started with just a basic sewing machine, a basic serger, an iron, and just some basic sewing tools. That's it. Don't spend a lot of money. The really big thing that you should try to save money up for is a really good mirror, maybe a wider one. A wider one that you can actually see the client while you're pinning. So that's what I would waste my money on, or not waste, but use it for. So when you're getting started, how is anybody going to know what you're doing? Well, first of all, nowadays you have Facebook, you have Instagram, you have the social media where you can post photos, you can make offers to people. I'm starting a business. Word travels a lot faster than when I started. And the other thing is, don't forget about just going around to some local shops, give your business card and say, hey, I do alterations now. I'll pick up and deliver or set up a time to go meet at their store. There's so many ideas. So hopefully that'll help you get started on this whole thing. But I want to show you, if you're going to work with clients, how to do this. So my friend June came here, and this is really important. When you're going to work with the public, most of the times you're not going to know who they are, so it's somebody that maybe you haven't met, and there are professional ways to run your business. Number 1, if you're going to work out of your home, make sure your house is tidy, and no smoking. Absolutely no smoking in the house, because it can get on their clothes. The other thing is make sure that if you have pets and animals, many people are allergic, so make sure that those are away too. You just want to give a good impression. It is professional. So I just want to give you some tips on fitting your client. So here's June, and notice how she's standing. When you're measuring a client, whether it be for custom clothing or even altering her clothes, if they don't stand perfectly straight, so June, I'd like you to stand straight and put your shoulders back. Now, don't act awkward, just like stand normal. Many times you'll see a client that like kind of arches her back like this, or they lean over, they want to follow what you're doing. Like for example, if I were down here hemming June's pants and she's following, it's shortening her pants. So these are little tricks to look for, because once you hem their pants too short, they won't be coming back. So here's her shoulders. It looks like she's pretty relaxed. How about her arms? Well, if I were to say I'm measuring her for a custom garment, and I'm measuring, that looks great, and I start to measure her arm and she starts bending it or acting like this, it's a natural thing that your client's going to want to move with you. So just keep your eye up and make sure that her head is straight and she's just relaxed. So you'll be able to measure just simply like that. The other thing is when it gets into pinning your client, I used a few different things. I had a wristband, which worked great. This is just a little metallic thing. I would stick it in my pocket, and this was my favorite. That way, when I was moving around and pinning, I could just kind of go around her like this, and the pins would be right here. If you notice when I'm pinning here, I'm going to have June turn this way a little bit. You want to make sure when you're pinning your client, for whatever reason, pull the fabric away from them. And if you're really nervous about this, practice. Practice on your kids or practice on your husband. That would be good. But you just want to make sure that you don't poke your client. And you also want to make sure, however you touch them on anything that you're taking in, that you do it appropriately. So just measure. Now this is exactly what I was talking about the mirror. My first mirror, I worked in a small condo, and I had a custom mirror made that went right behind the front door. And it was probably this wide. Why would I want one that wide? Because when I'm pinning her, I need to look around her and make sure when I pin this side, what happens to this side? And I have to see, whenever you start pinning your client, things change. So that's one reason. I have a mirror to the left just to show you what you don't want. Those would be your first opinion to get. Number one, it's not high enough. And number two, it's so narrow that if I tried to see around June, I wouldn't be able to see past her head. So that's just another tip. So that's pretty good. Now, one more thing with June. She looks great. You want to be very professional as far as how you dress, how you treat her, maybe offer them a cup of coffee, and also be very professional on your billing. So be upfront about what you're going to charge. If you're going to do custom clothing, don't think, I'm just going to sew this and I'll charge her later, because she probably won't be very happy with that. So if you know an approximate cost, you can tell her. If you're unsure, you should give her an estimate. And then if you know it's going to be a lot more, let her know that, because many times they'll be fine with that. The other thing you might find is that until you really build your confidence, that you might want to charge less than maybe you should. So make sure you do an internet search about what people are charging in your area. There is a difference in charging cities compared to suburbs, but the better you get, you'll get better at billing. You just don't want to end up in a rut where you're working 60 hours a week and you're avoiding your family, and all of a sudden you check the money at the end of the week and it's not very much because you were giving your services away. This is a professional business and you should be paid accordingly. So that's another thing with clients. And the other thing is, don't be afraid, and I won't do this to you, June, but don't be afraid of firing a client. You've heard of firing employees. Well, there does come times when you're working with clients that absolutely drive you crazy. And maybe it's a personality glitch, maybe, not her glitch, but maybe we just don't compromise. Or maybe they don't like what you do and it makes you feel insecure and you're going to mess up her stuff anyways. You just simply say, you know what, I just can't take your business right now. It's really hard to do, and I had to do it twice, but it's like a load comes off. So treat your business as you would anybody would. Well, thanks, June. Thanks for all your help, and don't forget to tell your friends about me.
No problem. See you again.
See you soon. So I hope you enjoyed those tips for starting your own business. I have a few more. First off, if you start working from home, make sure you dedicate a space for where you're going to work. I chose the master bedroom, but just choose a bedroom, the basement, wherever it is. Make sure that when you're working that you balance your life. If you have a family, make sure you balance between yourself and your family. Don't avoid them, and don't always be stuck in your sewing room. And the other thing is, if you're single, give yourself a break. Don't forget, if you don't have time to read a magazine, something isn't right. So a few more tips for starting your business. As you grow, I started just doing custom apparel, and then I added alterations, mostly out of the demand of my clients that they wanted things to fit because I had spoiled them with the custom clothing. You can add alterations, and then I added a ready-to-wear line. That was fun and fashion shows, but I had to move into a larger space. And so that was a big step for me, and I was nervous, and it kept growing and growing. So make sure that you're ready when it's time, and don't overextend yourself. That's a big thing. I finished this book. It's How to Start Your Own Home-Based Fashion Design Business. Home-based is the key word there. So good luck in business, regardless of where it is. And then one more thing, once you get going, don't forget there are a ton of sewers out there, and maybe you don't like working with the public. There are many independent pattern designers out there, which is also where my career progressed. So have fun, enjoy, and make sure that you don't have to have a ton of money. Don't be scared, and don't be afraid to email me if you have questions.